The Chicago wind sliced through the crowded loop, carrying the sharp scent of coffee and exhaust. It was a Tuesday morning, and the city thrummed with its usual chaos. Honking taxis, hurried footsteps, and the low buzz of 1,000 conversations blending into one. Inside a bustling cafe on Michigan Avenue, James Carter stood at the counter, his charcoal suit immaculate, his jaw tight. The barista, a young man with a nervous smile, slid a cup toward him. "Latte, sir. Extra shot, no foam, just like you asked." James lifted the cup, took a sip, and grimaced. "This is decaf," he said, his voice low but edged with steel. "I don't have time for mistakes." The barista stammered, I'm sorry, sir, I thought—" "You thought wrong," James cut in, setting the cup down with a deliberate thud. He didn't raise his voice. He never needed to. At 45, James Carter was a financial lawyer whose presence commanded boardrooms and silenced subordinates. His dark hair, streaked with silver, framed a face that rarely softened. He adjusted his cufflinks, ready to walk away, when a small voice pierced the air behind him. "Excuse me, mister. Can you be my dad for just one day?" James froze. The cafe's chatter seemed to fade, leaving only the sound of that voice, high, clear, and impossibly earnest. He turned slowly. Standing a few feet away was a girl, no older than 7, with a tangle of brown curls spilling over a faded green sweater. Her sneakers were scuffed, one lace untied, and her hazel eyes locked onto his with a sincerity that felt like a physical weight. In her hands, she clutched a crumpled flyer, the words "Family Day" printed in bold crayon colors. Behind her, the line of caffeine-deprived commuters shifted restlessly. A few glanced over, curious or annoyed, but the girl didn't flinch. She stood her ground, small but unyielding, like a sapling in a storm. "What did you say?" James asked, his tone more curious than kind. The girl stepped closer, undeterred. "Tomorrow's family day at school. Everyone's bringing their dads, but I don't have one. I thought maybe you could help, just for one day." Before James could respond, a woman rushed forward, her face flushed with panic. She was in her early 30s, her blonde hair pulled into a messy ponytail, her coat frayed at the cuffs. She carried the weight of someone who hadn't rested in years, yet her green eyes held a quiet strength. "Lily!" she gasped, kneeling to grasp the girl's shoulders. "You can't just run up to strangers like that." She looked up at James, her cheeks reddening. "I'm so sorry. She says things sometimes." "She didn't mean it." "Yes, I did," Lily interrupted, her voice fierce despite its smallness. "I saw him, and he looks important, like a dad should. Please, Mom, it's just one day." James stared at the girl, then at the woman. The cafe's noise roared back, clinking cups, shouted orders, the hiss of the espresso machine, but none of it reached him. There was something about Lily's unwavering gaze, her absolute belief that he, a stranger, could fill a void in her world. It stirred a memory he'd buried long ago, the laughter of a little girl, the warmth of a hand in his, the life he'd lost. "I'm so sorry," the woman said again, tugging Lily toward the door. "We'll go. We didn't mean to bother you." "Wait," James said, surprising himself. The word hung in the air, heavy with possibility. He blinked, as if waking from a trance, and looked at the woman. "Your daughter." "What's her name?" The woman hesitated, her grip on Lily loosening. Lily Rose." "Lily Rose," James repeated, testing the syllables. He glanced at the flyer in Lily's hand, then back at the woman. "And you are?" "Sarah," she said, her voice soft but steady. "Sarah Evans. I work at a call center downtown, and I pick up shifts at a diner on weekends. We're not asking for anything, I swear. She just—" her voice faltered. "She gets ideas sometimes." James looked at Lily again. Most children would have shied away by now, intimidated by his stern demeanor. But not her. She held his gaze, her eyes bright with hope. He found himself asking, "Why does she need a dad for one day?" Sarah's shoulders sagged slightly, as if the question carried a weight she'd carried too long. Her father passed away when she was 3, cancer. She doesn't remember him, but she feels it, the absence. Family Day is a big deal at her school, and she's been talking about it for weeks. The line behind them had grown silent, the other customers now openly watching. James took a breath, his mind flashing to a different time, a different girl, a different loss. He'd spent a decade perfecting the art of detachment, building walls no one could breach. But now, in the middle of a chaotic cafe, a 7-year-old had slipped through every defense with a single question. "Tomorrow," he said, his voice quieter now. "What time is Family Day?" Sarah blinked, startled. "At her school, 9:30 a.m. "But you don't have to." "I'll be there," James said. Lily's face lit up, her smile so wide it seemed to brighten the room. "Really?" she whispered, barely daring to believe it. James nodded once, his expression unreadable. "But just for one day." He crouched to her level, his voice softening just a fraction. "You'd better have a plan, kid." "I don't do chaos." Lily giggled, and James Carter, the man who'd built an empire on precision and control, walked out of the cafe with something he hadn't felt in years, a flicker of purpose. The next morning, the Chicago skyline glittered under a sharp, clear sky, but the air was cold enough to sting. Sarah sat on a bench outside Lily's elementary school, her hands wrapped around a paper cup of tea that had long gone lukewarm. James stood beside her, his overcoat buttoned to the collar, his posture rigid. The school's playground buzzed with children, their laughter cutting through the morning chill. "She doesn't really know what a dad is supposed to be," Sarah said, breaking the silence. "She was so young when Mark died. But she notices things, other kids with their fathers, the way they're picked up after school. It's like she's trying to fill in the blanks." James glanced at the playground, where Lily was swinging on a tire, her green sweater a bright spot against the grey pavement. A yellow ribbon, slightly askew, fluttered in her hair. "She's sharp," he said. "She's everything," Sarah replied, her voice thick with love. James said nothing, his hands clasped behind his back, his watch catching the sunlight. "I didn't mean for her to ambush you yesterday," Sarah added. "She's always been bold, but it's different. She feels things deeply, more than other kids." "I don't do kids," James said, his tone blunt, but not unkind. Sarah gave a small smile. "I didn't think you did. Which is why I'm still wondering why you're here." He turned to her then, really looking at her. She was exhausted. That much was clear. Dark circles under her eyes, hands chapped from work. But there was a resilience in her, a quiet fire that refused to burn out. "I'm wondering that myself," he admitted, almost to himself. Before he could say more, Lily raced toward them, her cheeks pink from the cold. "Come on, it's time. They said to bring our dads to the art room." James hesitated, then extended his hand. Lily grabbed it without a second thought, her small fingers warm against his. They walked into the school, Sarah trailing behind, watching the way her daughter looked up at James. Like he was already someone she trusted, someone who belonged. The art room was a riot of color, construction paper strewn across tables, paint splattered on the floor, and posters proclaiming Family Day in glittery letters. James, in his tailored coat, stood out like a shadow in a rainbow, But Lily didn't care. She pulled him from station to station, handing him crayons, showing him how to fold origami stars. He was awkward at first, his hands too precise for the messy chaos of glue and glitter, but her laughter softened his edges. "Make a heart," Lily said, shoving a piece of red paper at him. James raised an eyebrow. "I don't do hearts." "You do now," she shot back, grinning. He folded the paper, his movements careful, and when he handed her a slightly lopsided heart, she beamed as if it were a masterpiece. The other parents, dads in jeans and hoodies, watched curiously, some whispering, but James barely noticed. For the first time in years, he was present, not just passing through. Then came story time. The children gathered on a rug, each with their dad, as the teacher passed out books. Lily climbed onto James's lap, settling in like it was the most natural thing in the world. She handed him a handmade booklet titled, "My Hero Dad," its cover decorated with crayon stars. James hesitated, his throat tightening. "Read it," Lily whispered. He opened the book, his voice, usually reserved for courtroom arguments, softening as he read her words. "My dad is strong like a mountain. He makes me laugh when I'm sad. He holds my hand so I'm never scared." Halfway through, Lily leaned against his chest, her eyes half closed. "You make me feel safe," she murmured, "like a real dad." James's breath caught. He looked up and saw Sarah standing by the door, her hand pressed to her mouth, her eyes glistening. He looked down at Lily, so small, so trusting. She didn't want his money or his power. She just wanted someone to show up. And somehow, against every instinct, James wanted to be that someone. That evening, over takeout pizza in Sarah's cramped apartment, James found himself talking more than he had in years. Lily chattered non-stop, telling him about her favorite books, her pet turtle named Bubbles, and her dream to be an astronaut painter. Sarah watched, her smile cautious but warm. "You don't have to keep doing this," she said later, as Lily colored at the kitchen table. "You've already given her more than I could have asked for." James set down his coffee mug, his gaze distant. "I had a daughter once," he said, the words heavy with a pain he rarely voiced. "Clara, and a wife, Emily. They died in a fire 10 years ago. I was at a deposition, arguing over a contract when it happened." He paused, his fingers tightening around the mug. "I wasn't there." "I was never there." Sarah's eyes softened, but she didn't interrupt. "I told Clara I'd make it to her school play," he continued. "I said there'd be a next time." There wasn't. He looked at Lily, her crayons scratching happily across the paper. "Your daughter. She reminds me of her. Not in looks, but in spirit." Sarah reached across the table, her hand resting lightly on his. "You didn't fail Clara by not being there," she said. "You're failing her now by not living." Her words hit like a punch, raw and true. For the first time in a decade, James felt the weight of his grief shift. Not gone, but different, like a door creaking open. The next week, trouble came. Sarah arrived home from her call center job, her face pale. "They let me go," she told James over the phone, her voice shaking. "Someone saw us together at the diner. They think I'm trying to, I don't know, use you to get ahead. It's ridiculous, but they said it's a conflict of interest." James was at his office, surrounded by glass walls and city lights, but her words pulled him back to that cafe, to Lily's hopeful eyes. "Where are you now?" he asked. "At a bus stop near Lincoln Park. Lily's with me." "Stay there." 20 minutes later, his sleek grey sedan pulled up to the curb. Sarah and Lily sat, huddled on a bench, the street lamp flickering above them. Lily's head rested on her mother's shoulder, her green sweater bunched around her. James stepped out, his coat flapping in the wind, and knelt in front of Lily. "Hey, kid," he said, his voice low but fierce. "No one's allowed to make your mom sad. Not on my watch." Lily's eyes widened, and she threw her arms around his neck. Sarah watched, tears brimming, as James stood and met her gaze. "This is my fault," he said, "and I'm going to fix it." 2 days later, Sarah walked into the Carter Legal Foundation, a non-profit arm of James's firm focused on community outreach. She'd barely stepped through the glass doors when she heard a squeal. "Dad!" Lily's voice echoed down the hall. She sprinted toward James, who caught her in a hug, her small frame nearly knocking him off balance. "Did you miss me?" she asked, grinning. "Always," James said, his smile softer than Sarah had ever seen. He turned to her, his expression serious. "I want you here," he said, "as my project manager for the foundation. We need someone who cares about people, not just numbers. Someone like you." Sarah shook her head. "I don't want a handout." "It's not a handout," James said. "It's a chance. For both of us." She looked at Lily, still clinging to James's hand, and felt something shift, a spark of hope she hadn't dared to trust. "Okay," she said finally. "Let's try." Weeks passed, and the three of them fell into a rhythm. James started leaving work early to pick Lily up from school, his briefcase swapped for a backpack full of her drawings. He read her bedtime stories, stumbling over the voices but earning her giggles. Sarah watched from the sidelines, her heart caught between gratitude and fear. She'd known hope before, and she'd known how it could shatter. One Friday night, Lily came home quiet, her usual chatter replaced by a feverish flush. By midnight, her temperature hit 103. Sarah paced the apartment, damp cloths in hand, her voice trembling as she called the pediatrician. James sat by Lily's bed, his calm facade cracking as she whimpered in her sleep. "It's okay, kid," he whispered, brushing her damp curls back. "I've got you." But then Lily stirred, her voice a fragile thread. "Don't go away, Dad. Please." James froze. The word, Dad, hit him like a wave, breaking something he'd locked away for years. He hadn't cried since the fire, not once, but now tears spilled silently down his face. He gathered Lily into his arms, her small body burning against his chest. "I'm here," he choked out. "I'm not going anywhere. I promise." He held her through the night, rocking her gently until the fever broke at dawn. When Sarah entered the room, she found them in the rocking chair, Lily asleep, James exhausted but steady. His eyes met hers, raw and unguarded, and she knew. He wasn't just playing a role anymore. He was all in. Trouble came again, this time in the form of Michael Reed, Sarah's late husband's brother. He arrived unannounced on a snowy Sunday, his suit stiff, his expression colder than the weather. "I hear you're letting some lawyer play family with my niece," he said, standing on their doorstep. "That's not right, Sarah. She needs real family, not a rich man's charity." Sarah's heart raced. "You haven't seen her in years, Michael. You don't know her." "Which is why I'm here," he said. "I'm filing for guardianship. A man like Carter can't give her stability. He's a stranger." James stood behind Sarah, his fists clenched, but his voice calm. "You don't get to decide what's best for her." Michael's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that." The courtroom was stark, its wooden benches lined with silent spectators. The judge, a woman with sharp eyes, flipped through a file as Sarah sat beside James, her hands trembling. Lily, in a blue dress, sat between them, her feet swinging above the floor. Across the aisle, Michael Reed sat rigid, his lawyer whispering in his ear. "This man," Michael said, gesturing to James, "is a temporary figure, a wealthy outsider who's known Lily for months at most. I'm her blood. I can give her a stable, moral upbringing, not a fantasy." The judge raised an eyebrow. "And what of love, Mr. Reed? Does it factor into your claim?" Michael faltered. "Love matters, but it's not enough. Family is about duty, biology." A soft sound broke the tension. A chair scraping, a small figure rising. Lily stood, her dress wrinkled, her curls wild. She walked to the center of the room, clutching James's hand. The bailiff hesitated, but the judge waved him back. "My name is Lily Rose Evans," she said, her voice small but clear. "And I already have a dad." Gasps rippled through the room. Michael's face paled. "He reads to me every night," Lily continued, her chin lifting. "He makes Mom smile. He holds my hand when I'm scared, and he never makes me feel alone." She turned to James, her eyes shining. "I don't need another dad. I picked him." James's vision blurred, tears threatening to fall. The judge leaned back, her expression softening. "In light of the child's testimony, the clear bond with Mr. Carter, and the lack of prior involvement from Mr. Reed, this court denies the guardianship petition." Sarah exhaled, her hand flying to her mouth. Lily ran to James, her arms wrapping around him. For the first time, he didn't feel like a man filling a role. He felt like a father, completely, irrevocably. A month later, James planned a picnic in Grant Park, the spring air soft with the promise of bloom. Lily raced across the grass, her laughter mingling with the breeze. Sarah sat beside James on a blanket, her smile brighter than he'd ever seen. They'd settled into a new normal, dinners together, school pickups, quiet evenings that felt like home. As the sun dipped low, James pulled a small box from his jacket. Lily, noticing, bounded over. "What's that?" she asked, eyes wide. "Open it," James said, handing it to her. Inside was a silver bracelet, a tiny charm engraved with the word forever. Lily gasped. "It's for me." "You showed me what family means," James said, his voice thick. "No matter where we go, you'll always have me." Lily hugged him, then turned to Sarah. "Mom, you need one too." James smiled and pulled out a second box. "Sarah," he said, his voice steady but raw, "you and Lily walked into my life and made it whole again. I don't want temporary. I want real." He opened the box, revealing a simple ring. "Will you be my family?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. She nodded, words failing her, and fell into his arms. Lily clapped, bouncing on her toes. "Can I carry the flowers at the wedding?" James laughed, pulling her close. "You'll do more than that, kid." 6 weeks later, in a small chapel bathed in morning light, Lily walked down the aisle, dropping petals in uneven clumps. Her white dress sparkled, her smile unstoppable. James stood at the altar, his hands steady now, his heart full. When Sarah appeared, radiant in a cream gown, he forgot the world existed. Their vows were simple, unpolished, real. "I thought I'd lost my chance at love," James said, "until you and Lily showed me how to start again." "I thought family meant sacrifice," Sarah whispered. "But you showed me it means home." Lily stood between them, holding their hands, as the officiant pronounced them a family. James lifted her into his arms, kissing her forehead. "You picked me first, remember," he said, his voice breaking. "Best choice ever," she whispered back. That night, under a sky dusted with stars, They danced in Sarah's living room, barefoot, laughing, no music but their own joy. A family, forever. And that was the story of a little girl's brave question that changed 3 lives. Love doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes, it slips in through a child's voice, through second chances, through the courage to choose who you call home. If this story moved you, if it made you believe in healing and hope, share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe to Heartstrings Tales for more stories that remind us how beautiful the human spirit can be. Until next time, hold tight to the ones who make you whole.